Today we are going to create something very interesting. This is a pivot chart, and it's very dynamic. You can see we have a pivot table on this end, and here we have our pie chart, which is now connected to the data that we have here. Down here we have our slicer. This is a filter. You can use that to navigate or to even filter between what you want to see in our chart here. We can actually even carry the slicer and move them away, have them in a separate sheet like this, and yeah, okay, let's remove the grid lines so that at least it look almost similar. You can go ahead and make it as pretty as you want, but let me show you how we are going to go about this. So the first thing that you need to have is your data. This is my data, contains some countries and population between 1987 all the way to 1996. So the first thing, convert this into a table. Control T, you are going to get this pop-up here. Click on OK. If the lines are covering the whole of your table, click on OK like that, and now this is our table. We can actually even change how it looks. So I prefer this one looking exactly like this. Now we have the table. What you need to do, just go to insert, then you go and choose the type of a chart that you want. If you are not sure about the chart that you want to create, you can just click on recommend the chart. Now in my case I want to use a pivot chart, and just click on that drop down, then click on OK like that, and then you're going to have this pop-up. It's actually telling you what the table. Maybe you might have several tables in your workbook, and you can just specify exactly the table that you're working with here. And I usually recommend you to name your tables in case you have several. In my case, I just only have one in this worksheet, so it's good to always name your tables. So I want this to be in a new worksheet. So if I click on OK, we are going to create a new worksheet, and then we are going to have placeholders for our pivot charts and our pivot table. So click on OK, and we have them. So this is where our pivot table will go, and this is where our pivot chart will go. We can actually move it slightly there so that actually the placeholder will be here. And now we have the options here. I want the country name, the region, and everything. Actually, just let's have everything there. So it's automatically knew that I want to have the country and the region separate from the values, which is very ideal. And I don't want this table. I just only want something like a pie chart. Yeah. So right click on it, then click change chart type. So from this point, you have so many options here. I want the pie chart. You have so many others you can work with. In case maybe you feel that pie chart will be so limiting, you can just pick whichever that will work with you, and then yeah, then you can have even the heat maps. But in my case, I just only want a pie chart, and I have it here. So this is what I want to have. I click on it, and then I click on OK. Now I have this. I want to resize it so that at least it will fit in a large area, and I become more visible. Yeah, so I have them. I usually don't like seeing this, so I can just like click on them, and I click on hide those fields. So I now have only the title, which I can move to this corner here, and my data. So I want this data to make a little bit more sense, so I want to create a filter which will tell me the region where that pie chart is locating the data from. So this is how you do that. Click on insert, then you go the way to slicer, you click on it, and then choose whatever you want to base your sorting with. So I want to base my sorting using the region, so I click on that, and then I click on OK. Now you can see I have this slicer. I can actually go ahead and make it a little bit more interesting. I want it to be not vertical but horizontal. So because there are how many? There are 5. So I want all of them 5 to be along the rows, so that would be okay. I think they look good. So that's how this thing is looking like. First of all, let me see whether my slicer is working. I click on it, it just only narrowed down to Africa, Americas, Asia, Europe, Oceania. If I want to clear my filter, just clicking on this corner is enough. So back to default, and you can see everything is dynamic. I click on Africa, the table will only contain data from Africa, and also the chart. I can click on that. You can see the table is changing the data. So you can see, for example, this Ocean here has several countries, which are few, and you can see the table will shrink depending on what is contained. Now I think up to that point we are good. So let's try to make it a little bit more interesting. So I need to make my chart look a little bit more popping. So right click on it, then go to format charts area, and then I want a gradient. So you can choose how you want your gradient to look like, but I think I'm okay with this one. Yeah, I can add some shadows. Let me increase some transparency, the size a little bit. Oh, that will be extremely large. Okay, I think that's okay. We can work with that. And the transparency, something like it's more transparent. Yeah, that one looks a little bit better. The distance, okay, I actually don't need to even do anything else. So yeah, so simply that's how you can be able to create your pivot chart. Very easy. You can go ahead and be as creative as possible, because this is Excel. You can do almost anything that you feel like you want to. So go and make reports and representations out there and make them more interesting.